Country music looks wholesome under bright stage lights, but behind the rhinestones lurks a history that still cracks barroom conversations wide open. From award show firestorms to political mic drops and identity crises, the genre's past brims with flashpoints that made fans cheer, boo, or smash their radios in pure fury. Tonight we're diving into 21 lightning strikes that sent shockwaves through the country kingdom and still make tempers flare decades later. Some felt like betrayals, others like liberation, yet every uproar carved another notch into the fretboard of American culture. The first tremor hit the heart of the Opry when an outsider walked off with country's highest female honor. In 1974, Australian pop darling Olivia Newton-John was crowned CMA Female Vocalist of the Year, beating homegrown legends who had cut their teeth in smoky honky-tonks. Traditionalists cried that Nashville had traded twang for crossover cash. Just 1 year later, the fury doubled when John Denver, beaming on a satellite feed, accepted Entertainer of the Year. Models of decorum shattered. Presenter Charlie Rich doused Denver's envelope in lighter fluid and torched it on stage, declaring the verdict ridiculous. To some, he was a folk hero. To others, a sore loser who missed the memo that country was evolving. When stars turned political, the genre's Cold War burst into open combat. March 2003, London. Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks told a British crowd she was ashamed President George W. Bush came from Texas. Within hours, phone lines melted, stations banned their songs, protesters bulldozed CDs, and the trio's award-winning career went into free fall. Years later, they shortened their name to the Chicks, but many diehards still call them traitors. Decades earlier, Skeeter Davis faced her own punishment after publicly defending hippie street preachers arrested in Nashville. The Opry suspended her for months. Merle Haggard's politics spun the compass 360 degrees. He blasted anti-war movements with "Okie from Muskogee," then decades later praised cannabis reform and saluted President Obama, leaving loyalists spinning. Lyrics alone could ignite bonfires. In 1975, Loretta Lynn released "The Pill," a cheeky celebration of birth control freedom. Church groups picketed, dozens of stations yanked it from playlists, yet the single rocketed up charts and sold 1 million copies, proving controversy can jingle the cash drawer. 2 years before, Conway Twitty crooned, "You've never been this far before." Its suggestive hushes sliding past late-night bedroom doors. Listeners clutched pearls, programmers banned it, but it still landed at number 1. Tammy Wynette's 1968 torch ballad, "Stand By Your Man," sparked feminist outrage for preaching unconditional devotion, even as it became an anthem for women who identified with its raw honesty. The battle lines drawn by those 3 songs still echo whenever new lyrics dare to push moral buttons. Award ceremonies themselves began to resemble saloons at closing time. Charlie Rich's flaming envelope wasn't the only act of defiance. During one televised CMA show in the 70s, Waylon Jennings famously walked out when producers tried to shorten his set, declaring that real music couldn't be trimmed for commercials. Backstage whispers accused organizers of favoring polished puppets over rough-edged truth-tellers. Each stunt deepened the sense that gatekeepers, not audiences, chose winners, and every dramatic protest chipped another piece off the establishment's marble column. Personal turmoil soon spilled into concert halls. George Jones's love affair with alcohol and coke spawned the nickname No-Show Jones after he missed more than 50 gigs across the 70s and 80s. Some ticket holders demanded refunds, others clung to loyalty, believing the greatest voice in country deserved grace. Hank Williams Sr. never received such mercy. In 1952, the Grand Ole Opry fired him for drunken unreliability, shocking fans who thought the institution would stand by its brightest star. Nashville's hard line signaled that legends could be exiled if they embarrassed the brand. Yet the move also cemented Williams's outlaw mystique, inspiring future rebels to test those same boundaries. Tired of polite politics, a handful of renegades grabbed the wheel and steered west. Willie Nelson, strangled by industry gloss, fled Nashville for Austin's beer-stained stages. There he and compadres sparked the outlaw movement, fusing hippie idealism with honky-tonk grit. Waylon Jennings doubled down, insisting on full creative control and refusing to overdub his raw baritone for executives who wanted cleaner edges. Johnny Cash took rebellion straight into Folsom Prison in 1968, singing to inmates while guards kept nervous hands on holsters. Critics called it glorifying crime. Fans called it truth. That live record didn't just sell millions, it rewired the moral circuitry of country music. Even instrumentation became a battlefield. Ray Price swapped his signature shuffle beat for velvety strings in the early 70s, enraging fans who said violins belonged in ballrooms, not beer joints. Yet the singles soared, and younger ears embraced the slick sophistication. Patsy Cline had met similar resistance a decade prior when her lush orchestral torch songs blurred genre lines. Purists accused her of abandoning twang, unaware they were listening to future standards. The feud over true country intensified through every arrangement change, teaching future producers that innovation often enters through the back door with a bodyguard named Backlash. Then came an identity twist so bewildering it still sparks jokes on late-night radio. In 1999, Garth Brooks, the biggest-selling solo artist in American history, unveiled Chris Gaines, a brooding pop-rock alter ego complete with emo bangs, fictitious backstory, and a soundtrack to an imaginary biopic. Country loyalists blinked, tilted their Stetsons, and asked if the man had cracked. The album charted respectably, but nowhere near Garth's usual hurricane, and a planned movie evaporated. Critics declared the experiment a flop, yet 2 decades later rumors of a revival swirl, proving that even apparent disasters can morph into cult intrigue. Strip away the rhinestones and these 21 uproars reveal a single thread. Country music's deepest tradition is arguing over what the genre should be. Outsiders like Olivia Newton-John and John Denver forced listeners to question whether accent and birthplace dictate authenticity. Politically charged moments from the Dixie Chicks to Skeeter Davis tested tolerance for dissent under the red, white, and blue spotlight. Songs such as The Pill and You've Never Been This Far Before confronted taboos about bedroom choices, while envelope burners and walkouts dared critics to separate art from spectacle. What lingers isn't just the music, it's the friction. Fans still hash out whether Loretta's birth control anthem was liberating or lewd, whether Charlie Rich's match was righteous protest or petty jealousy, whether Waylon's walkout was principled or petulant. They debate if George Jones deserved forgiveness, if Hank Williams' firing saved the Opry's reputation or stained it forever, if Johnny Cash romanticized criminals or humanized the forgotten. They wrestle with whether Ray Price's strings paved the path for Shania Twain's global pop reach or watered down the honky-tonk soul. All these flashpoints show that country music grows by friction, not by comfort. Every ban, boycott, and flaming envelope yanked the conversation forward. Each time a boundary was crossed, by accent, politics, lyric, lifestyle, or instrumentation, the genre stretched, shrieked, and eventually found room for the new sound. Without uproar, perhaps Nashville would still be stuck playing only twin fiddles under a single dusty spotlight. Instead, because battles raged, arenas now roar for artists blending hip-hop beats, trap hi-hats, and church choir harmonies with banjos. So the next time a modern controversy erupts, maybe a TikTok star lands a #1 hit with an auto-tuned tractor rap. Remember the ghosts of outrages past. Recall Olivia braving booze, Charlie Rich's envelope ash drifting through stage haze, Loretta staring down moral crusaders, Cash shaking prison bars, and Garth ducking behind an imaginary persona. Country has survived every outrage and thrived precisely because of them. Its roots may run deep, but its branches twist in every direction, watered by the tears, laughter, and curses of generations. That's the stubborn beauty of this genre. It belongs to anyone willing to pick up a mic and risk getting yelled at. And it belongs to every listener ready to argue that their definition is the only definition, even as new voices prove otherwise. The next scandal is already tuning up backstage, But the lesson of the last century is clear. Whether the critics boo or the crowd erupts, the music plays on and the sparks keep flying, lighting the long, dusty road that country singers and fans will walk together. Take Tammy Wynette, hailed as the First Lady of Country. In 1968, she co-wrote and recorded "Stand By Your Man," a torch ballad that seemed to call for unconditional loyalty no matter how badly a husband behaved. Feminist activists of the emerging women's liberation movement blasted it as a step backward. Protesters waved placards outside venues, and talk show panels framed Wynette as the musical mouthpiece of patriarchy. Yet inside those same halls, thousands of working-class women sang every word, believing the song honored resilience rather than submission. Sales erupted, proving the most polarizing message can double as a mirror for deeply divided audiences. A generation earlier, another lightning strike hit when the Grand Ole Opry dismissed a shy truck driver with swiveling hips. 19-year-old Elvis Presley auditioned in 1954 and, legend claims, was advised to stick to the wheel because he would never make it in country music. Fans today retell that rejection as the worst career blunder in Opry history, a single decision that pushed rock and roll's future king away from Nashville's grip. Whether every detail of the story is literal or tall tale, one thing is certain. The snub fed Elvis's determination to prove the purists wrong, and in doing so, he redrew the map for every boundary-defying artist to come. Fury also bubbled when the industry seemed to ignore innovation until it came wrapped in hard time. Johnny Paycheck walked a jagged outlaw line singing about barroom ethics and blue-collar rage. Despite radio hits like "Take This Job" and "Shove It," many mainstream platforms kept him at arm's length, branding him too volatile. It wasn't until Paycheck landed behind bars for shooting a man in an Ohio tavern that headlines finally plastered his name everywhere. To some fans, the moral seemed upside down. Nashville gave more attention to a convict than to his earlier creative hustle. Yet the publicity surge also solidified Paycheck's outlaw legend. Merle Haggard, meanwhile, exposed the genre's political schizophrenia. In 1969, he released "Okie from Muskogee," an anthem many embraced as a middle finger to counterculture protesters. Years later, Haggard praised cannabis legalization and spoke warmly about President Obama. Listeners who had claimed him as their conservative champion cried betrayal, while progressive fans cautiously welcomed him. Haggard laughed at the uproar, insisting he was merely chronicling life as he saw it. His shifting stances reminded everyone that artists aren't marble statues, they're restless scribes. Another sonic earthquake rumbled when string sections began to drown out steel guitars. Ray Price's sleek arrangements were only the beginning. By the mid-70s, Eddie Arnold crooned against full orchestras, and crossover singles marched up adult contemporary charts. Die-hard traditionalists grumbled that Music Row was chasing pop dollars at the expense of soul, sparking heated letters to radio programmers. Yet behind the scenes, session players rejoiced. Lush charts meant bigger gigs and fatter checks. Innovation rarely feels sacrilegious to musicians who have rent due. While sounds were changing, stagecraft grew bolder, sometimes scandalous. Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty's duets crackled with flirtation bordering on bedroom banter. "You're the Reason Our Kids Are Ugly" delivered playful jabs that simultaneously charmed and unsettled Sunday morning listeners. In the early 70s, such lyrics were daring, yet the chemistry between the two icons forced even wary programmers to keep spinning the records. Sales proved that fans would tolerate risque humor if the melody hooked their hearts first. Then there's the matter of public meltdowns. Charlie Rich wasn't the only artist to torch a symbol of establishment power. His act merely set the standard. Years afterward, lesser-known musicians staged envelope-ripping protests, microphone tirades, even mid-song walk-offs, all hoping to bottle a fraction of Rich's shock factor. Most fizzled, but they revealed a new playbook. Weaponize live television to etch your name into lore even if executives blacklist you tomorrow. Sometimes, though, the backlash came from within an artist's own fan base. When KT Oslin toppled Reba McEntire in 1988, letters poured into CMA headquarters accusing voters of sabotage. Reba was ascending with arena-level spectacles. Oslin represented mature songwriting raw with middle-aged perspective. The surprise win split households, with radio call-in polls degenerating into shouting matches over who deserved the crown. In hindsight, the uproar feels quaint, but at the time, critics predicted it might fracture the award show's credibility forever. Even geography could spark resentment. When Willie Nelson planted his flag in Austin, he was in effect declaring independence from Music City rules. Skeptics predicted exile. Instead, Austin blossomed into a mecca where redneck hippies mingled with cosmic cowboys, birthing festivals and live music economies that still thrive. Willie's gamble underscored that Nashville, powerful as it was, would never again hold a monopoly on country authenticity, and we cannot forget the quiet storms, the human costs behind the headlines. George Jones's missed shows were sometimes punctuated by tragic scenes, promoters pounding on motel doors, fans chanting his name until management announced cancellation. Jones later phoning stations in slurred apologies that broke hearts even as they tested patience. In interviews, he admitted he often sabotaged his career because he feared he couldn't match the myth of his own voice. Such vulnerability complicated the public's view of his failures, turning gossip into empathy. Likewise, the Dixie Chicks saga offered a lesson in how swiftly opinion can swing. Years after the London remark, a new generation discovered their harmonies online and questioned why the industry had ever exiled them. Their commercial rebirth as the Chicks coincided with broader cultural reckonings about free speech, setting social media aflame with debates over whether punishment had exceeded the offense. Time revealed that what once looked like career death could morph into a redemption arc, even if scars remained. History suggests that whenever gatekeepers tighten their grip, rebels find a side door. That was true when Elvis fused rhythm and blues with country, when Cash serenaded convicts, when Willie unbraided the genre's stylistic boundaries, when Garth donned dark lipstick to chase a fictional muse. Each rebellion forced audiences to confront the uncomfortable question, does ownership of tradition belong to the past or to whoever dares to reinvent it in the present? The tug-of-war extends beyond sound waves. Fashion debates alone could fill jukeboxes of outrage. Rhinestone suits gave way to faded jeans. Cowboy hats competed with baseball caps turned backwards. Purists moaned when line dancing invaded honky-tonks, calling it a gimmick for tourists. Yet the craze introduced younger crowds to two-step rhythms and spiked beer sales, proving again that what looks like corruption to some can feel like invitation to others. Money invariably lurks beneath moral panic. Labels framed controversies as existential threats while quietly shipping extra units to stores, knowing curiosity sells. Radio programmers publicly condemned provocative lyrics even as they tested the songs during late-night slots to gauge listener obsession. Scandal became both branding hazard and marketing fuel, a double-edged guitar string every executive learned to pluck carefully. Perhaps the most enduring secret is that outrage often ages into nostalgia. Charlie Rich's firebrand stunt, once labeled disgraceful, is now retold with affectionate laughter. Fans who burned Dixie Chicks CDs sometimes admit they stream the band today. Younger listeners distant from the original fury experience these moments only as colorful lore that adds flavor to playlists. Time transforms shock into legend, smoothing edges but preserving energy. Yet new flashpoints keep erupting. Artificial intelligence song mashups blur vocal authenticity. Viral TikTok challenges catapult unsigned teenagers onto Billboard charts overnight. Debates about real instruments versus laptop loops mirror the old quarrels over strings and steel. The same cycle spins. Tradition confronted by innovation, outrage blooming, acceptance following, and history expanding like a well-worn chorus repeated by fresh voices. In that sense, the story never ends, it only modulates. The microphone passes from Conway to Garth, from Garth to Lil Nas X, each artist tossing a fresh log onto the fire. Fans light up comment sections, Pundits crank out hot takes, and somewhere a songwriter scribbles lyrics certain to offend somebody. Tomorrow's scandal is already humming on a work tape deep inside a basement studio. What remains constant is the raw power of country storytelling: 3 chords, the truth, and occasionally a gasoline can. The genre's willingness to wrestle publicly with faith, sex, politics, and heartbreak ensures it stays culturally relevant. Polite art rarely digs deep enough to leave a scar. Country music's greatest gift is its refusal to stay polite for long. So pour another cup of black coffee, or maybe something stronger. Cue up the classics, and listen closely to the crackle between the notes. That static is the sound of boundaries stretching, of artists risking everything for one more verse, of fans deciding whether to cheer or boo. The controversy is not a sideshow. It is the living pulse that keeps the genre's heart beating, loud enough to echo from the Ryman balcony to the tiniest dirt road dance hall. And if the sparks flying today ever make you uneasy, remember they are just embers from fires that were already blazing when your grandparents tuned their first transistor radios. The pattern is ancient. A newcomer shakes the tree, the old guard claims the sky is falling, the dust settles, and the music library grows richer. Progress in country music does not tiptoe. It kicks doors, burns letters, rips envelopes, snaps guitar strings, and sometimes drives a tour bus straight through public opinion. That's why anger matters. It means people care. It means the lyrics hit nerves still raw. It means the format isn't background noise, but cultural battleground. Every gasp from the crowd etches another line in the evolving definition of country, a definition nobody can fully own, though everyone keeps trying. Country music's legacy proves that every spark of outrage eventually adds another verse to the songbook, reminding us passion and conflict keep the melody alive.